Hello, my name is Brandon. I'm the sales manager for Big Data and AI Toronto 2021. Welcome to our first edition of our webinar series. We will be having a number of these leading up to our Big Data and AI Toronto 2021 event. This is our first edition, which is weaving data quality into the data fabric. Is sponsored by Talend. And today we have Mitchell Ogilvie, who is the Senior Solutions Engineer for Talend, and he will be discussing that topic with you today. So Mitchell, if you want to take it away, floor is yours.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, well, thank you very much. So I will begin sharing my screen, guys. And while I do so, I'd just like to express my gratitude for everybody joining us and giving me the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you as we discuss weaving data quality into the data fabric, and also sort of decided to play a little bit into the theme around artificial intelligence and how data quality sort of plays a role in that topic. So I'll just take a second here to ask, you guys can see my screen? Everything is okay on from the technical side? I'm hoping that to be the case. Can somebody confirm or?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So very good. So yeah, again, just a little bit of background on myself. I've been with Talend now as a senior solutions engineer for a little over 2 years, but I have been spending the predominant majority of my career inside the data management space, focusing in around data integration, data integrity, and data governance solutions, techniques, and technologies. So I've been working with customers in many different industries and areas and helping solve some of their pressing data management needs. So with that, what you might notice is I'm not necessarily an expert on artificial intelligence, and I know that this upcoming conference does have a theme around it. So I did, take this as an opportunity to do a little bit of investigative work and sort of talk to some of my customers and did some research in the space. Obviously, AI is heavily reliant on data and big data, and for that, I felt like I was still providing some strong value with explaining a little bit how data quality can impact this. So I'll start us off here with a little quote, and I found this from a gentleman by the name of Pravita Ghosh, and it was just sort of wraps up artificial intelligence, as we know, encompasses broad fields of data capture, storage, preparation, and advanced analytics technologies. So while I'm not necessarily super experienced in AI myself, I mean, obviously these concepts and these technologies and concepts around data capture and storage and prep are areas that I'm quite familiar with. And, so it does touch home very nicely with, some of the areas that I've spent some time working in. So. As we move through, we'll talk about a little bit, when does bad data affect AI applications? Ultimately, there's two main areas that I'd sort of understood that, poor data can affect our AI applications. And again, leveraging a quote from a paper written by Jason Compton at Intel, indicating that, an AI application is only as useful as the data used to train it. And, training AI with dubious data leads to questionable decisions and ultimately outcomes. So, it's important that we understand the effects that bad data have on training some of our models. So obviously, when we look at a fairly high level sort of view of the different steps, high level here on some of the training exercise that goes into to building out some of our ML and AI models, we see that obviously getting data is obviously the first part. What good is training a model without data? So you need to be able to access and get good data. Arguably, then you're going to leverage, and some technology to potentially, clean and prepare or manipulate said data before sending it into your training models. Of course, then you need to review and test this information. And I believe that this is an iterative process. So, of course, through the exercise of training models, it's important that we improve the different algorithms and whatnot that define our models. So of course, this becomes an iterative process of, again, potentially getting more data, cleaning and preparing it, and sending it down through the model exercise. So with that, speaking about some of those questionable decisions that our models can output, I've included a number of sort of anecdotes and some stories that I came across that I found to be quite interesting, that sort of highlighted a little bit some of the questionable decisions AI models have been delivering. And the first I'll bring to you is this story about a quantitative trading algorithm. So if we're all familiar with sort of programmatic trading, the world of quantitative analysis and again algorithmic trading, which have become in some ways the norm. But there's this story that goes, there was an algorithm that was created to analyze vast amounts of data and news data around Berkshire Hathaway. We should be familiar with Berkshire Hathaway being, obviously the company that Warren Buffett spearheads and is CEO of. So in this case, these quantitative algorithms were trained to exercise trading moves and making decisions based on inputs. And in this case, an undesirable output occurred when anytime there was an Anne Hathaway movie that ended up actually being released, algorithms were picking up the buzz of Hathaway being in the news and ultimately executing trades based on that. So there was this correlation to any time that there was this Anne Hathaway movie that might have came out, and the share price, in fact, actually would increase of the Berkshire Hathaway shares, which, of course, probably wasn't the intended, output of our AI model. But this just sort of goes to show that the training of this model may have been biased, which you'll hear about being sort of one of the challenges. But in this case, obviously, an undesired outcome of potentially poor data. So I always kind of enjoyed telling that story. And this other one that had, conversely, some negative sort of press that occurred with Apple. We're all familiar with obviously the tech giant Apple, but they decided to venture into the business of offering credit cards. And of course, a training algorithm was created that would provide credit assessment of individuals applying for their credit card. And in this case, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hansen, whom he actually, if you're not familiar, he had created Ruby on Rails, so a pretty popular programming sort of language used for I think a lot of web development and so forth. But ultimately, him and his wife had both at the same time applied for this new credit card being issued by Apple, and of course, the black box algorithm effectively provided the husband of this duo with 20x the credit limit than his wife, Jamie Hansen. But what was odd about the algorithm is that ultimately they determined that there was a very strong gender bias in this situation, since both Jamie and her husband had actually filed their tax returns jointly. They actually shared all financial accounts, ultimately with quite a high credit score. But actually, Jamie, the wife in this situation, ended up having a better credit score. But ultimately, Apple's black box algorithm, when pressed, was apparently the root cause of a bias in this situation by adding additional credit to the husband. Now, Mr. Hansen, as you can see here, ended up having about 350,000 followers. He's a pretty well popular followed person in the tech space, and it got quite a bit of attention. And of course, there was all this negative press to Apple, whom by all accounts has been seen as a very inclusive type organization. And it actually got some feedback from Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple. Found the same algorithms applied a better credit score to him over his wife as well, even though they essentially had the exact same sort of financial situation. So here we see a negative press, which obviously can hurt businesses' reputations and have undesired outcomes when the data effectively being used to train some of these algorithms isn't representative of the real situation. So, and then ultimately, once you've trained a model incorrectly, I suppose then the next sort of phase, an area where data quality and poor data quality can enter, is obviously the inputs to your application itself. So I've seen that obviously there's two use cases or two main areas where bad data entering in can be problematic. And so we first see the model training, and then of course the actual usage of the algorithm itself. But of course, making sure that the data that we now input into our AI applications is sound and complete and accurate as best as it possibly can. So there really does require a little bit of upfront work both during the training phases and, of course, the inputs that then go into your AI applications. So switching gears a little bit to then seeing and focusing on some of the, what are some of the common data quality issues that we see within data sets that, again, affect both the model generations and then the executions of them. We'll look to see here just a few of the high-level types of data quality issues that have been identified during certain AI projects. And of course, we see, some of the common data quality dimensions present themselves in the field of ML and AI, but of course, inaccurate and incomplete or duplicate data can cause some challenges. Of course, if you're expecting certain values to be populated, we expect them to be there for both execution and training purposes. Then oftentimes, you might be looking at having too much data. We can enter in the concept of noise and unrelated bits of information that potentially can skew the desired outcomes. And conversely to that, we might look to seeing having too little data may not be satisfactory as well. A couple more here we'll get through. We talked a little bit about a biased data. Oftentimes, people are selecting data sets that might prove their desired outcomes to begin with. So having this unbalanced or biased data sets can cause problems when generating your training exercises and your algorithms themselves. And then, of course, being able to get access to data it can be problematic. So these data silos that may not have, access to the right people to be able to train this information. So within an organization, it's important that those who are working in the space of ML and AI would be able to leverage all data available to them. So preventing data silos within an organization can help improve the data sets used. We also see inconsistent data, so things that change over time that might not be fully representative of the underlying sets. So this sort of looks at the accuracy dimension. So again, having poor and inconsistent data can obviously cause challenges as well. And lastly, labels become very important when doing training of information. So again, through that exercise, you're always expecting to be able to provide some labeling and metadata about the data as well, such that our models can leverage the labeling of specific data. So when those issues present themselves, again, the data sets themselves become poor candidates for both input and training exercises. So that sort of brings us to the idea of, all right, so how are we going to fix this? Well, I'm happy to be here to explain to you. Well, of course, Talend is the one who can help solve some of your data quality challenges. And of course, maybe I'm a bit biased since I work with Talend and I think our technology is great, and we'll showcase a little bit of that. But don't just take my name or word for it. What we have here is actually some analyst reviews, obviously very widely available. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Forrester and Gartner, and we've been consistently ranked in the leaders environment inside Forrester's big fabric data wave. Of course, some of these are quite small, so I've highlighted our exact positioning here for you. But again, we've been recognized by both Gartner and Forrester as leaders in our space around data integration and data quality, and Forrester's recent big data fabric sort of areas. So, like I said, don't take my word for it. We've got thousands of customers worldwide that are leveraging Talend to solve some of their data quality needs, as well as their data integration. So with that, I will jump into a little explanation of how the Talend Data Fabric platform is sort of structured. I'm going to take a focus on a number of applications, but most importantly here, I'll just give you a quick overview of the entire sort of end-to-end solution that comprises our Data Fabric solution, and then we'll take a focus in on the data quality aspect because it's quite unique in how Talend offers this. So starting from left to right here, we at Talend offer some data replication and ingestion tools. This allows users to quickly gain access to a number of sort of on-prem and cloud SaaS-based applications, such that we can collect the information quite quickly and just drop that into a data lake where it can then be fit for future processing or potential usage of, again, maybe in AI and ML-driven machine or model creations. So again, getting access to some of our SaaS applications has been problematic for some organizations who maybe aren't necessarily familiar with API layers and so forth. So Talend offers a cloud-based solution that will assist people to do data replication and quick ingestion into a data lake for future processing. We also have data integration, very, very strong, mature stack around the data integration space. So getting access to all the different data sources and sets that are required to an organization become very important. So again, industry-leading technology, and we have a number of different applications that help support different personas within organizations to be able to solve that. And as we jump to this data quality sort of swim lane, I like to focus on the fact that Talend itself doesn't offer or sell to the market a data quality tool itself. Our view of data management is that data quality is a necessary component to it. So we actually have now embedded our data quality capabilities across all almost all of these different swim lanes. So what you'll see here is data quality is actually embedded into our data integration tools. So no matter where and when you're actually doing data integration or data engineering and pipelining activities, you'll have access to data quality components and objects, things like address verification, name parsing, a whole bunch of components that are just accelerate improving and validating data quality issues. Next, we actually offer a platform which is called a data inventory, and this is a sort of central location where we store some data which can then be used against our family of cloud apps, which I'll focus in on here a little bit in the next slide or two. I won't spend too much time here, but again, an inventory of the data assets that then become available to users to use across their different needs. Another area of our data governancing solution comes into the data catalog, and this allows for an enterprise-wide view of all technology assets. I'll jump in a little bit further on there, but again, this is an important area to understand where all our data sets are. So this becomes that, solving that data silos issue, understanding what data is out there, who owns it, how do I gain access to it. Again, another product in our offering that supports data governance and data quality initiatives. We have an application that supports data preparation, data wrangling. Sometimes our data sets aren't fit for purpose in their current format, so we need to be able to provide end users capabilities to organize and shape that data as they need. Data stewardship is an area, another tool within our platform that allows people to then remediate problematic records and fix data issues as they present themselves. So being able to get the right tools in the right hands to the right people who definitely understand and know the data well, who are responsible, potentially have been deemed owners or custodians of certain data assets, and we provide tools to assist with data stewardship capabilities. And then lastly, of course, we can build data quality APIs. We can, expose data quality rules via APIs and be able to embed those through some of our real-time application integration capabilities as well. So really taking the data quality concept and embedding it across many different areas of our product stack to be able to solve data quality where it's happening or at post-processing or again in self-service capabilities. And the last thing I like to bring up is Talend has recently, in the last 12 months or so, launched this concept of what we'll call a trust score. And I will get into the specifics of what the trust score looks like, but we're actually leveraging some artificial intelligence and capabilities behind the scenes within our data inventory platform to automatically generate a trust score on data sets so people can very quickly and easily view a trust score. So again, this is a proprietary algorithm that we've defined that we have taken some inputs from our customer base to be able to share the health of data as it stands today and be able to highlight whether or not it's fit for purpose for those users of data within the organization. So with that, I will jump into some of the areas of this stack that I felt would be actually quite interested. You might be interested in learning a little bit more about. And the first of which, again, this is, I think, very important to the data machine learning and AI space, because of course, being able to understand and find data within an organization is often a huge challenge that people are faced with. So this, we are seeing a considerable amount of market interest around data governance now. There's regulatory requirements as well, but just being able to definitively say what data and data technology assets do we have within the organization assists us with being able to then use the data and share it accordingly. So Talend's data catalog is offered both in the cloud as a SaaS application or an on-prem instance. But some of the core capabilities of our data catalog provides the capability of harvesting and governing metadata from all of your different technical assets. And when I say technical assets, I don't necessarily just mean the storage environments, the databases, or the cloud storage environments. I am talking about certain things like BI and analytics. And when we think about the dashboards and reports that were being created, and some of the visualizations technologies out there, the Tableaus, Power BIs, the clicks, these types of things can also be harvested. So then users can then actually see, well, what reports do I have out there? Maybe I don't have to recreate a report. I can actually just leverage this one that another department has created or whatnot. So again, not only harvesting data storage environments, but of course we do that too. So here we have all of our traditional RDBMS database sources, NoSQL databases, the likes of Mongo, and then big data sources as well, HDFS systems, including the likes of things like Parquet files, Avro, all of the major file types. We're also able to harvest metadata from modeling tools. And of course, well, maybe not of course, and this is actually a pretty interesting feature of our data catalog, is we're able to harvest from our ETL tools. And what that supports is not only Talend ETL and integration platform, but and some of our competitors as well. So we have harvesting bridges to the likes of ADF or SSIS or Informatica jobs. We are able to actually parse out the integration metadata from these GUI-based systems to be able to stitch everything together and to provide very strong data lineage from source to target. And you'll be able to then use those ETL metadata to be able to confirm the transformations that are going on. Because one of the areas that I learned recently is that people, instead of having these black box algorithms, are needing to actually show the lineage of data, not only of their algorithms themselves, but of how the data came to be used and is essentially shared as outputs. So we also offer capabilities of a business glossary and a technical metadata dictionary as well. So again, it's sharing business terms and terminologies, I guess, and definitions of things across different groups become important so we can understand the underlying data. I'm sure we've all seen data stored in database tables that don't have very descriptive column headings. So technical metadata isn't necessarily sufficient, and we also need to understand a little bit more of the definitions of things as they kind of cross different lines of business. So we talked a little bit about the data flow, being able to harvest the metadata of not only the report structures, but also the ETL and integration platforms as well. So we're able to identify from source to target changes along the way. We also talk about, modeling versions, as your data marts and warehouses change over time, it might be important for regulatory purposes to be able to showcase what a data mart looked like, 2 years ago if we're being audited for whatever reason. And Talend provides a actual history of these things as well. So our data catalog really does provide that one-stop shop for people to understand all the different data assets within the organization, such that then they can actually get better access and usage of that data. So hopefully avoiding, small data sets, siloed data sets, maybe biased data sets. So the next tool in our arsenal I'll talk about is our Pipeline Designer. It's a cloud-based SaaS application that allows users to then actually manipulate and fix and change some data in a pipeline format. So this is a more modern approach to building out ETL jobs. There's quite a bit of different capabilities and functions and features of this that people who are actually using the data. So maybe not your ETL or data engineer persona would leverage this tool, but once you've actually identified data sets that you want to work with, but potentially you need to manipulate them, through joining of data sets, aggregating, sorting, filtering, whatever it might be for your needs, leverage a browser-based development environment to be able to then wrangle up that data set and develop and push out data sets for your needs. In additional to that, another tool that we offer is this data preparation environment, which allows users to review and look at data sets. We identify very quickly some of the problems that exist within inside them, and then we offer contextualized and semantic type awareness type functions that you can then manipulate data sets with. So this is like looking at an Excel file sheet, but a whole bunch of data quality and governance types functions to manipulate that data set such that it's now fit for purpose for your needs. So again, some of our raw data as it exists in our data lake may not be standardized, complete, consistent to the level of standard that we expect. So this is where we can enter in the concept of a data preparation environment such that you can manipulate the data for your needs. Moving on to our data stewardship application, and this is essentially a tool that allows data stewards to remediate record by record based exceptions or sets of records when we're doing things like grouping and merging records. But again, instead of a whole data set where we're manipulating, we can leverage Pipeline Designer to output issued or problematic records such that a data steward can then fix them. One of the more challenging aspects of data when it's incomplete is I can't automatically fix something leveraging other columns or attributes or reference data sets. I actually need somebody to fix this data manually. However, we want to be able to provide an auditable, secure application such that users are able to then fix data, and then those data elements can then be added back into our pipelines and then ultimately be used at the end of the day. Our last application that I'll highlight here is our data inventory. You talked about it a little bit briefly, but data inventory is another area where you can actually quickly glance and see, as I've described, this Talend trust score. So once you register a data set with inside inventory, you're able to launch our data pipelines or our data preparation applications directly from here. But what we offer is this concept of an ID card, which allows users to quickly and visually see some of the health score that we define. And how is it that we go about defining this health score is exactly what I'll get into here next. So this health score has a column within inside each of our data sets that we can quickly view how healthy this data set is and how fit for purpose it is. I mentioned that you can launch directly into a pipeline, a preparation, or a stewardship activity from here in order to fix your data issues. So with inside our Talend data inventory is a very helpful way that you can share data, certify data sets, create favorites, organize them in such a way that for your own projects and needs, you'll have at your fingertips all those other applications as well. I'll talk very quickly here on how the actual trust score comes together. It's actually a sort of five-pronged analysis of this. So what we use are 5 quality indicators, and we aggregate them all the way up into a trust score that goes from a 0 to 5. And again, some of those 5 sort of metrics or dimensions that we use in this case are validity, popularity, completeness, discoverability, and usage. So how discoverable is this data set? Is it accessible to people? The completeness aspect, and we do all of these things somewhat automatically through the harvesting of the data set itself. And then ultimately we have behind the scenes a mathematical function that essentially generates these data scores for you. So coming up just to the end, again, I just wanted to highlight the fact that we've got this sort of new concept of this trust score. We're constantly tweaking it as we get more feedback, just like all AI models. We need to sort of reiterate our process as we're sort of tuning this up. And again, just a very quick and easy way for people to get a sense of the types of data sets that they have, and of course, the trustworthiness of that. So I'll just sort of finish off with this a little bit. What we're trying to achieve and assist organizations do is, prevent limited data. So what we want to do is be able to create thorough, clean, and complete data for all users across the organization. Eliminate confusing data, make it transparent, accessible, and understandable through the usages of things like our data inventory and our catalog. We want to prevent out data from our data set, so we're able to test those types of things. And of course, make sure that we have access and integration capabilities to all of our data sources to ensure that the data that we're leveraging and using across all of our applications, not only AI, is of course timely. Avoiding inaccurate data, so we want to be able to fix anything and be able to trace how it is that we fix things. Again, having metadata around when we actually fix an inaccurate data element is important, and leveraging tools like Talend's Data Fabric to do so can help that. And again, what we saw is, unreliable data can then be tested and rated and certified by users. Of course, leveraging a combination of the tools within our Data Fabric solution. So I would love for you to schedule some time with me for a demo. I can leave my contact information at the right here, actually, as we're just coming up on time. But again, Talend is trying to take your data chaos effectively and solving some of the challenges that you're facing. So with that, right on time, I would like to thank you for taking the time today to learn a little bit more about Talend and how it is that we can support your journey in ensuring you have clean and good data to help support some of your machine learning and AI needs.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. We do have time for a 5-minute Q&A. So if anyone in the audience does have any questions for Mitchell, you can type it in the public chat area, and Mitchell will be more than happy to answer that question.
Very cool. Is that?
Please feel free to type any question in there. And again, while we're waiting for the questions, I will mention that we are offering 40% discounts to our Big Data and AI conference that will be running until the end of today. Prices do go up as of tomorrow. So if you are interested in purchasing your tickets, we are offering that 40% discount for the rest of the day. And if anyone has any questions, again, you feel free to put them in the public chat portion.
Everybody's a little shy or quiet today? All good.
Okay, well, Mitchell, thank you again for your time today. Thank you for the audience for participating as well. We're looking forward to having you guys at our Big Data and AI Toronto 2021 edition. And please also look out for our future pre-event webinars that will be happening to the lead up in the lead up to the event. Thank you again for everyone participating, and we'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Well, thank
Thanks.
you guys.
Take care.